All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, you already know what time it is, and right here, right now, we are actually live in full effect, and we actually have legendary illustrator for Source Magazine and Marvel Comics. We got the one and only André LeRoy Davis live on the line, man. How are you doing this evening?
I am good. How you doing? What's up?
I'm doing best as I can possibly be down here in Canada. No, I'm pretty sure you saw the tabloids and whatnot. It's definitely a wonderful time to be Canadian right now.
Isn't it always? I got family in Toronto, so
I,
I definitely don't get there like I should. But I got family in Toronto, and the experiences I've been have been pretty cool.
I gotta say, Toronto definitely is a beautiful city, man. Phenomenal. I always call that city the New York City of Canada, man, because I'm truthfully, Toronto never sleeps.
Oh yeah, I definitely saw how and why. It's been a minute since I've been there, but I definitely saw how and why when I guess people weren't really shooting in New York. They would use Toronto as the New York flavor because it definitely had that, certain parts reminded me of like straight up 42nd Street, 34th Street, and yeah, things were definitely on. You go to a corner store late.
And Andre, I know you're a very busy individual, so I'm going to dive right into this broadcast, but I want to take you back to the beginning of your amazing career this far. And of course, as we already know, you are one of the most famous hip hop illustrators within the culture of hip hop. But I have to ask, man, what first drew you to hip hop, and of course, what actually made you fall in love with it in the first place?
So I know you didn't mean that pun with your question, but what drew me to hip hop was, first of all, being a music lover, first and foremost. Grew up in a house that music was always playing, AM stations that kind of played every damn thing possible. Was definitely a funk fan. You know, anytime you threw in anything like from Chic in the 70s and then later on with the time in the early 80s, I just appreciated funk. So like the very first time I heard King Tim the Third when I think I was in junior high school. So it's probably like 78-ish. King Tim the Third by the Fatback Band just it was a different sound. It felt good. When you said the lyrics, it made you feel good. You kept a smile on your face because it was some silly fly stuff. And then right after that, once Sugar Hill Gang came out, which was just kind of like the offshoot of Good Times by Chic, which I was already a fan of, it just kind of like sealed the deal. And then every song and every record that came on after that, from Curtis Blow's Christmas rapping, it just continued the new love that I had for this so-called new music. So from that, just from the jump, the appreciation of it.
And also, as well, I have to ask, what actually made you decide to actually get into just a hip hop illustration? Like, what was the first artist that you ever actually had the opportunity to draw?
Well, I won't even say it was even thinking about being a hip hop illustrator. Just as a kid, if it was something that I liked, I drew it. From drawing the comic book characters that I read, from drawing the cartoon characters like Mickey Mouse, to drawing Steve Austin, $6 Million Man, to drawing Sammy Davis Jr. I'm just thinking about old sketchbooks that I had, and it was just a variety of things that were in the book. So, like I said, once the appreciation for hip hop came, I actually didn't even start drawing any hip hop characters or people when I was younger. Actually really started drawing the first hip hop people that I drew were the Fat Boys in like '85. So I don't really know why, even though I loved hip hop from the jump, I never really thought about drawing any of my hip hop heroes until later. Probably like late 20s, even, because as I tell people, I was not thinking anything about hip hop or it was going to be this or it was that. I was just doing and enjoying what I was appreciating. And then in the high school that I went to, we were just living and breathing hip hop without even thinking about it.
And also, as well, as we already know, you were actually most known for your time at Source Magazine for the column The Last Word. I was wondering, how did that opportunity originally arise for you? And of course, how did you land that gig way back in the day with the Source?
But I tell people like this: the Source wasn't the Source. Meaning, what people know now, the history, how much it went on to mean, getting the title of Bible of hip hop. When the Source came to New York, because they were originally out in Boston, they were a magazine probably 8, 9 issues deep. They really had not built the acclaim that they went on to. So I was already a freelance artist. Got out of college. I was already working for certain magazines like Discover, Emerge, and all of that. And I just was going around the newsstands, which I normally did, to see what magazines were out, so I could reach out and see if they were interested in my work. Had my portfolio with me for a Source magazine and newsstand. Thought it was interesting. Went old school on it. Took the quarter out. Called from a corner phone booth. Turns out they were like a block away from where I was. Walked over there. They were in one room, one small room. So that lets you know it was the beginning stages, early days. They weren't loads of money. And the original editor-in-chief, John Schechter, told me, he saw my work, looked at my portfolio. He said he always wanted to add an element of illustrative work into the magazine. And had a conversation. He told me what he was thinking. It was supposed to be something about the FBI tapping Eazy-E's phones, that type of flavor. So I sketched an idea right there on the spot. He okayed it. Told me he would need it in 2 days. Went home, drew it, painted it. Back then, of course, like I said, they were just beginning, so there was no color involved. I did it in black and white and different shades of gray. Bought it in, met the deadline. They loved it. I really thought that was kind of just going to be it, but then they reached out to me the next month, and reached out to me the next month, and it just continued until 16 years had passed.
And I gotta say as well, you did so many legendary, classic drawings within the Source magazine. I remember being a kid, always getting that magazine and always flipping to the back. Before I even look at what posters came in this month or anything like that, I would always go to your column, man. And the one thing I've always wondered, man, because in my personal opinion, they were all so wonderful. But I have to ask, what was one that you actually drew where you were like, you know what, this is actually my favorite? The one that you actually cherished the most?
I don't think there is one I cherish the most. I think it's corny. Well, maybe not corny, but I hear people talk about, when people say pick this, pick that, and folks are like, it's like my children, so I can't pick one. There are elements in all of them that I appreciated, because it was important to me to get 3 things across. That was to capture the likeness. I don't want anybody looking at any of my drawings and saying, that kind of looks like. Kind of was a word that was not acceptable to me. So that you had to capture the likeness, right? Second, you had to, if it needed to be, it had to be something that when you looked at it, there was a joke or there was some knowledge that you got from it. All right? So it had to be the likeness, had to be the joke, had to be the commentary, had to be on point. And then after that, it was just showing, as best as I could, my melanin-kissed people in a positive light. So there's always 3 things I went for. Even if an artist had done something that was dumb or said something that was dumb, I still tried to show some kind of positivity within pulling their card. So for me, there was no one favorite that I have done, but I always see certain ones that obviously people thought were their favorites that always seem to be posted, whether I posted them or not. And one of them would be the KRS-One throwing PM Dawn off the stage. Another one would be when we lost Jam Master Jay, the JMJ RIP. And another one would probably be Ghostface as Iron Man. Those are the 3 I usually see that I don't post, that I usually see around. So obviously those meant stuff to people.
The one that I always love the most is actually the Christmas Naughty by Nature one that you did, where they're all sitting on Santa's lap and and Santa asked them, "You down with OPP?" I don't know. I always loved the element of that. I always thought it was funny every time I saw that.
Cool. But see, but now that one right there, that actually wasn't a last word. That was a Christmas card that Tommy Boy commissioned me to do. And back in '92, I think, when Naughty by Nature had just come out that Christmas. So that actually was a Christmas card commissioned by Tommy Boy Records.
And I have to ask, did they actually did they give you that idea to go with, or did they just give you creative control when they did that Christmas card?
They reached out. They said they wanted the tagline to be, what is it? Well, when you open the card, it was supposed to be other people's presents, right? And the outside of the card was "You down with OPP." They said they wanted the Naughty by Nature to be sitting on Santa's lap, and then they wanted them to be more or less like, I guess like MOP says, they wanted to ante up Santa and have him tied up and taking his gift. So they told me what they wanted and were going for. And I just, sat down, did the sketches, brought it to life. Once they okayed it, I just went in and did what I did.
And also, before we move off the topic of Source Magazine, as you already know, you've got hundreds upon hundreds of drawings, but one thing I have to ask, were there any ever artists that actually ever got upset about how you portrayed or drew them actually in the magazine?
Yeah, that was, that was just a daily thing in the early days. You got to remember, we're talking about hip-hop, street music, party music, all of that, but in the early days, a lot of the stuff that was written about hip-hop was either a little paragraph in Spin Magazine, maybe something in Rolling Stone. But here you had a magazine that was in-depth, talking knowledgeably about hip-hop. So it started to mean a little bit more to other people. Like I said, it evolved into being the Bible of hip-hop. So here I am, and here's a magazine that people are now affected by and, tied to. And I'm drawing hip-hop artists in comedic ways. So it's never done before. Pulling some people's cards, making social commentary, doing editorial cartoon drawing. So certain people's feelings were upset. So in the early days, it was definitely something where people had to get used to, where people beefed, whether it would be a DJ Quick, whether it be X-Clan, whether it be a Rakim, whether it be an Eminem and Eminem's fans. During definitely the early days, it was seen by some as, what they got angry about. But that was mostly when, their crews that were upset. And then after a while, it became a badge of honor by most artists to be represented and illustrated in the back. But, yeah, early days, I think the first person to really beef, the first two people to really beef and reach out to the source offices and express their disdain would be X-Clan, specifically Professor X, and then you would have DJ Quick. Those were the two early on who weren't pleased with my pencil.
I think I remember the DJ Quick one as well. I think that was when he was, the illustration was when he was in the barbershop, if I'm not mistaken.
He was in a barbershop / beauty salon with hair dryers, sitting next to James Brown. He had his full perm, and he was waiting to get his hair done.
I gotta say though, I think that's actually clever. And at the end of the day, him and James Brown, it sounds bad, but you know what I mean. Is that all due respect, had the same type of haircut. You know what I mean? But it's not every day you get to be put beside James Brown, because James Brown's a legend.
Exactly. That's the way I perceived it. No East Coast, West Coast bias, but I was and am an East Coast head, and we definitely did not do the perm thing in hip hop. That was definitely West Coast style. So it wasn't really a shot at him. I mean, he was everywhere with the blowout and his hair done, and it was on point. And the only other person I grew up with, really, besides Little Richard, but I really was a James Brown fan. with him and his pompadour and his style. So I just threw that in there humor-wise to tie in the musical history, but also, poke a little bit because that's what I was there to do.
But also, as well, aside from the Source magazine, you actually have done a tremendous amount of work for Marvel Comics, where you actually did hip hop variant comic book covers. I was wondering, how did you originally get connected with Marvel Comics?
All right, so I look at it this one. So now, I mean, I have friends who say, you did work for Marvel, just leave it at that. I haven't done a lot of work for them, but I've done some work for them. Like I said, during the Source days, I tried to show artists and MCs in positive light. As a comic book fan from being a kid, if I could tie in artists with comic books, I would do that. From like what I told you, I mentioned to you, I did an early drawing of Ghostface as Iron Man because that's what he would talk about. So I physically made that happen. So I had obviously established that genre of doing it from early days, from probably early 90s. Probably one of my first collaborative combinations of hip hop and comic books. So I had established that. So years and years passed by. I had even left the Source by then. So we're talking probably like 2016. I was on a panel at Comic-Con talking about hip hop and comics. I was on a panel with Eric Parrish, CMC, Method Man from the hip hop realm. Then you had Bill Sienkiewicz and a couple other people from the comic realm. And we were just discussing, the history, hip-hop, comics. I was sitting next to then editor Alonzo at Marvel. And in between, before we were ready to start, I said, because like you said, there had been a lot of Marvel variant hip-hop comics with characters and covers that had come out. And like I said, I take the title of, I did that probably 20 years ago. So I said to him, y'all need to have me do a cover. And he said, well, I know your work, and call me on Monday, and let's do it. So I called with the intention of doing one cover, but when I reached out, they asked me to do 3 separate covers. So I did 3 covers for Marvel.
And I gotta say, the one cover that I love the most from your work is actually the X-Men Gold #1, the hip-hop variant, man. I love what you did with that. If you don't mind me asking, where did the inspiration come with that comic book?
Well, as you said, it was a variant. And what they would do is classic, established hip-hop album covers. They would reach out and they would ask the artist to take a specific cover. In this case, it was a Grandmaster Flash album cover. And they told me they wanted me to use the X-Men. And all I did was, you had to take the exact posing, positioning from the Grandmaster Flash album cover and now switch it and for the X-Men. So that's where the task was. I did a sketch. They approved it, went forward, painted it, and then that one came out. The thing about that one is it's actually one of the, probably one of the higher costing covers to get. And I would love to take all the claim for it, that it was because of my cover and my art. But the artist inside actually did some controversial wording and illustrations of things, and they pulled it from the market, so that made the price go up a little bit.
And I gotta say as well, I actually have that comic book in my collection, and I gotta say, outside of the music industry, I'm a huge comic book collector and whatnot, man, and I gotta say, that is actually a phenomenal story, and I've always been drawn to that artwork just because of the Grandmaster Flash aspect of it.
Very cool, very cool. I just did a new comic book cover. It's not from Marvel, though. It's an independent comic called Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer. Issue #6. I just did the cover art for that, so that should be out right now.
And I have to ask, well, do you actually know where our listeners can actually go and snag themselves a copy if they are into comic books, or do they just have to Google search it?
Well, if you're thrifty, you probably do all of the above. That would be go to your local comic book store, go online, Google it, do a search, and I know it's available, so you probably should be able to find a link to it on via your search, comic book stores, all that type of thing. It should be able to be found. It's definitely out there.
And also, as well, I have to ask, man, because I noticed that right now on your website, you currently have NFTs available. I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about this opportunity, and of course, how can our listeners actually acquire one of these amazing NFTs?
All right. So we did the NFT release last year. I had a lot of people approaching me about NFTs and my artwork and putting out the last words, and I like to put my toe into the pool and test the market out first. So what I did was some hip-hop heads that are available out there. I did 103 different heads. They are available for the masses to buy. We did the first auction, and we're actually getting ready to come out in the secondary market probably in April. It'll be through Near Protocol. And the first selling was pretty good, and those who, go into it and purchase once we hit the secondary market, they're definitely going to be available. Prices are going up and slowly, and once you buy your specific NFT, you lock it in, and hopefully, sell them, keep them. Might either go up. So it's called the Hip Hop Heads, and it's available. Like I said, it'll be available second market in April. So yeah, NFT.hiphop.
And I got to say as well, it definitely sounds like a tremendous opportunity for any hip hop fan.
Yeah, and what I decided to do, I did it in partnership with Ed Young, who was one of the former owners of the Source. And what I wanted to do, it's important to me that as an artist, we retain the ownership of our work. So what I did and what Ed and I decided to do is each artist that I depicted, we automatically made sure that they got 10 copies of their own hit, you know what I mean, as opposed to me just pocketing everything. And then we made a donation to the Universal Hip Hop Museum that is currently being built in the Bronx, and donated each of the heads so that they can start the NFT art specific part of the museum as well. So it's just kind of extending the hip hop love to all those who need to get some.
But I have to ask, what is next for yourself, Andre? I do know you actually said you have the NFTs available, you have the brand new comic book out. Is there anything else we happen to miss during this interview? Anything else you do still wish to talk about or promote? Well, we still got you here live on the Canadian FM dial this evening.
Well, I mean, as long as I'm living, breathing, feeling creative, there's always going to be something to promote. May not be anything specific other than what I mentioned now, but I'm always creating. There's always new ideas. Right now I'm at the drawing board right now, just creating. There'll be more, singular artwork out there. There'll be more NFTs. I just did a piece for a show called Afrofuturism, which is actually currently hanging in Carnegie Hall in New York. I did a piece to celebrate the life of hip-hop writer extraordinaire Greg Tate. So I am always trying to do something that is definitely creative, definitely memorable. I'm currently right now organizing and putting together the book retrospective of all of the last words, finally. Probably will do and take on more assignments that mean something to me. I pass up a lot of work so that I don't have to do it. It's really stuff now that means something to me. Curated a show that is hanging called 17, The Revolution Will Be Visualized. And that is a show that is right now hanging in the library in Queens, New York. It's kind of a couple of different places, but it's more or less is to honor and mourn and make people aware of all those young black kids who weren't able to live past the age of 17, whether it was street violence or being killed by the cops. So I'm out here, of course, trying to make you laugh, but make you think, but also say something as well. So that has always been part of what I do in any way, and just continue to do it.
And also, Andre, this is the time in the interview quickly that I give a chance for the individual that slides into the radio station airwaves, just a chance to give like shoutouts to whomever they want to give shoutouts to, but most of all, your social media handles. That way our listeners can follow you and stay updated on everything you, if they're not already doing so.
Cool. All right, well, the website is the full government, AndreLeroyDavis, AndreLeroyDavis.com. You can go to the website. On Instagram, André Leroy Davis, at André Leroy Davis. Also on Instagram, ALDreDay, ALDREDAY. Twitter, same thing, at ALDreDay. Find me on Facebook, The Art of André Leroy Davis, a.k.a. ALDre. It's the fan page. So, I'm out there on the masses. I'm trying to be on a lot of different social networks as possible, although that can be a job if you try to do all of them. So I'm trying not to do all of them. There's definitely always ways to get to me.
And I gotta say, first and foremost, Andre, quickly before we part ways, man, thank you so much for years upon years of amazing work and giving just a generation of hip-hop fans something to look forward to every single month by getting the Source magazine off the newsstands or waiting for the mailman to take forever to bring it to the mailbox just so we can look at your illustrations, man. Thank you for years of amazing work that we all had the opportunity to enjoy and cherish for so many years.
I definitely appreciate that, and as I said, still here, still intend to put out meaningful type work. Also, let me mention, I just forgot about it because I'm trying to jump into that market as well. You have the app called Discord. I am on there. You can definitely jump on there and find me. That's where I'm going to probably help to promote the upcoming secondary market NFT release in April.
But I gotta say, Andre, thank you so much again, man. I hope you have a wonderful night out there, and hopefully down the line we can make this happen again sometime soon, man. But for now, thank you so much, and definitely have yourself a wonderful night.
Man, I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for the invite, and definitely thanks for the positivity. Much respect, and you stay safe where you are.
Hey, man, I definitely shall try my best, Andre. Thank you so much, man.
All right, man. Take it easy. Peace.